And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Monday morning. A somewhat peculiar 5-game NBA slate on a Monday, but hey, Dave, we'll take it.
Yeah, we will. You know, anything's better than a day where all you have is the Pro Bowl. Oh, my God. I mean, I don't watch it anyway, but I was doing the Sirius XM show. We're on from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, right? The Pro Bowl started, I think, at 3.
On Sirius 210 XM 87.
My man. Awesome radio. And I can't wait to have you on for some baseball talk.
Definitely.
Once we get a little bit closer. So like if there's ever a game on, if the AFC champion, if an AFC playoff game, NFC game is on while I'm doing the show, you have to be watching. You have to keep it on. You just put it on mute, and I have a TV where I can actually have to turn my head a little bit. If you ever see me do that during these live streams, that's why.
Right. So for those watching on YouTube, for when Luffy's not listening to me, that's exactly what's happening. But go on.
There you go. But see, I've also put the camera because it's on, right. It's an external camera right behind the laptop, but it's pretty. Everyone's like, oh, he just doesn't want to look at the camera. No, I'm more than happy to look at the camera. It's just I'm looking at my computer.
Yeah, I can too. Here. All right, eye contact. Go on about the Pro Bowl.
There you go. Hey, dude, the NFC almost got shut out in the Pro Bowl in a game where defenses don't tackle. Think about that. Like, defenses don't even tackle. It was the most embarrassing thing you could ever see. And you should know when your quarterbacks are Mitch Trubisky and Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson was all right, but what a disgraceful game. And the over-under was like 54.5. For some reason, I always thought that like every Pro Bowl, because I don't really watch them, scores like 100 combined points. And then I went back and looked, and like including this one, the average score is like 35 points over the last 3 years. And the 3 years before that, the average score was like 100. So I don't know what's happened. Get rid of it, man. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster hurt his knee. Could have been bad for nothing.
Give me the skills competition. That's it. Give me.
I could do that.
Give me and it was Mitchell Trubisky looked terrible, but well, did you see the skills competition or no? Did you see it on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was?
No, I did not.
So there's a clip on YouTube. I'll try to find it and I'll send it to you. Where Trubisky, and sorry to everybody waiting for NBA, this will be quick.
I thought you meant in the game because he was
no. It's skills where they're doing like certain out routes or sideline routes or jump routes, whatever it is. Trubisky struggles for like 55 seconds trying to hit his receiver, and then Russell Wilson and Adam Thielen go in 15 seconds around the course. And it's just like Trubisky struggles. All right.
Poor Mitch.
We do have 5 games on tap. We're going to get through this in quick order. You do get Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You get Lofty writing the deep dive. That's the in-depth article on the NBA slate, and that will, of course, turn into baseball as well. Dave made mention of baseball just a moment ago. That will continue on. Adam and Dave, my 2 favorite writers. I think they should be your 2 favorite writers, not only for NBA, but MLB as well. They will continue the deep dive into Major League Baseball season. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. Schedule to be announced. But for now,
Adam's on a heater too.
Yeah. Bless that man, because he is put in a lot of work. Honestly, like you talked to Adam behind the scenes, he's putting a lot of work on how he does his process. And he has figured out some pieces along the way on how to really navigate some GPPs. And it's starting to build for him, and I'm really happy and somewhat proud. I feel like a surrogate dad because I have to help him with his computer problems all the time. But
which are in abundance.
Here's the thing.
If he doesn't buy a new if he doesn't, we might not be talking anymore.
Oh, we're done. We're all done.
And if
Adam,
he doesn't buy a new modem,
you're on notice. You're on notice.
I don't care if you don't live by yourself, man. Like,
right.
You tell him, hey, we're getting a new modem. I'm paying for it.
Right.
And that's it.
I mean, Fios just offered me gigabit download for pennies. So if you can't get that, it's
no more excuses.
All right, Adam. New computer, new modem, new Adam in here in 2019.
Yeah.
But you get the deep dive Monday, Wednesday, Friday from Dave, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday from Adam. You get the deeper dive every day, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. with Adam and Dave. Then you get Live Before Lock with Spags or Josh, and then Ed Fear. And you get the NBA Strategy Show every morning over there on YouTube as well, typically around 9:15, 9:20 with Josh and Dave or I keep doing that, or Adam. On Monday, it will be Josh, and Adam. With that said, we'll dive into this 5-game NBA slate. We have Knicks, Charlotte, Golden State, Indiana, Brooklyn, Boston, Denver, Memphis, Atlanta, and the Clippers. We start at point guard, where it all begins, and we start with Irving, Curry. Kemba Walker has a Q tag, has a neck issue. He's probable. Okay, thank you, sir. A neck issue for Kemba, something to keep an eye on. Of course, Conley, Lou Williams, Jamal Murray injured over the weekend. Mike Malone saying he's worried about his ankle, that it swelled up pretty good after the injury. And then we move on from there. Spencer Dinwiddie is out with that thumb injury, though he did vow to continue to tweet after his surgery. So for anyone who follows him on Twitter, you still get Dinwiddie tweets. Irving against Brooklyn stands out here quickly, Dave, but it's a 9-6 price tag. What do you think of the top end of the position?
Yeah, Kyrie Irving. It's a strong spot. The question that we always run into is, do we pay for him or do we pay for the other players on this slate? And with only 5 games, the first thing that we need to point out here is pretty evident. You have Nikola Jokic, who's coming off that monster triple-double against the Sixers. I take nothing away from him, but being that Joel Embiid was not active, I take a little bit away from him. But still a monster game. The problem was everyone played him on that slate, so it really didn't matter. 76.5 fantasy points, a huge performance from Jokic. You got him against Memphis here, but I'm really not sure how much that matters, only because look at the rest of the field, right? You've got Irving, Kevin Durant, who now that you have DeMarcus Cousins, you're going to see a difference. There's no question, not just with Durant, but with everyone else. And his performance, look, he's still going to have the 50 fantasy point games from time to time, but I think he's also going to have the 38, 45 fantasy point games. And I'm not huge on that. I mean, I'd honestly rather play Irving or Jokic even in a tougher matchup than Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry. Look, we really need more of a sample, and I'm jumping around here because it's important to kind of lay the slate out, especially with only 5 games. Cousins has played 4 games, right? And in those games, it's not like he's been scarcely used. It's not like they're, DeMarcus Cousins, he's playing limited minutes, and in those minutes, we're not going to use him. No, that's not the case at all, and no one should have expected it to be. I said to you the other day, I expect Cousins' usage rate to settle in between 26, 27%.
Yep.
Where on some nights, you're going to see it up over 30. Some nights, it's going to be a lot lower because they have so many pieces. Through 4 games, it's at 27.5%. His rebound rate's at 18.6. His assist rate, Dan, is at 24.5%. He is the type of do-it-all player that takes things away from teammates. And I think this team is just going to be happy to kind of everyone take a little bit off their plate because they're all still going to get theirs. They're all still going to play well. They're all still, many of them, going to be all-stars. But from a fantasy standpoint, I still want to see how this plays out. So we'll see what Cousins' minutes look like here. He was limited to 24 last game, played 23, played with 5 fouls for like 10 minutes to close out the game. But I think you could see him get up to around 26, 27. And if that's the case, then it hurts those guys as well. So with all of that in mind, yes, I think that Kyrie Irving is a perfectly reasonable play here on a slate that doesn't offer all that much at the high end. And, I'll just throw this back to you. There's no way you can say right now, especially if you look at Kyrie Irving, you want to talk about big production, 60-plus fantasy points now in 4 of his last 5. He's been smashing. There is also, I want our listeners to know about this because I think it's a really good prop bet for the Super Bowl.
Oh, sure.
Talked about it on the radio show too. If you wanted to check it out on the SiriusXM On Demand app, Sundays and Saturdays show were a lot of fun. We got into a lot of great Super Bowl betting props that I think is cross sport bets that I think should be really valuable to anyone that's willing to give them a look. But there is a Kyrie Irving points and assists. You know what cross sport bets are, or Patriots points. It's a pick 'em. Kyrie's facing OKC, second fastest paced team in the league, fastest over the last 30 days. quality defense, but I'm not concerned. Give me Kyrie Irving points and assists in that game over Patriots points all day long. I mean, even if he doesn't have a great game, he's averaging, just look at his averages. He had 25 points, 7-8 assists from Irving. Yeah, it could be close, but that's low-end production from Irving with the way he's playing right now. I absolutely love that. Also, Jason Tatum, points and rebounds, get this, or James White, rushing yards, not receiving yards, rushing yards.
It's awesome. You check out Irving's numbers and you sort of do the math across.
They're on WilliamHill.com, by the way.
They're across. So there are a bunch of sites you can go to. Brent Musburger's site. Yeah. Well, Visin
sites change their cross. Visin.
It has an amazing
stats and information.
87-page PDF of prop bets.
So does Westgate. And William Hill has like 20 pages, but yeah, VSiN has their own Sirius channel. We have them on as guests once in a while. Really sharp guys.
Oh, absolutely. As much as I hate Musburger as a play-by-play announcer, he's done a brilliant job in building that network up. But to your point about Kyrie over the past 5-10 games, his assist percentage is insane. His usage has ticked up a little bit. It's not going to climb too much. He was at, I think, 28.1 on the year. He's up to 30 or so over the past 5 games. This is a guy who's in a prime spot, and he's price tag is about right. We're here where, to your point, the rest of the high end of the slate doesn't really yield too much. We'll go through and see where we get, but Kyrie is somebody at least that has to be considered, and probably heavily considered as you go through here. What about the rest of point guard? A guy like Conley, Lou Williams is at 7,400, Trae Young at 6,700. Does the Jamal Murray news affect anyone else on this Denver squad who's point guard eligible? What do you got for the rest of point guard?
Yeah, I don't mind Mike Conley at 7,700. I think he's perfectly reasonable. Kemba Walker, assuming that he's active, and right now he is probable. So it's a mild neck strain.
Yep.
According to the Charlotte Hornets. I think he at 8,900. Yeah, he's a bit pricey, but once again, like at this point, is it crazy to think that Kemba can outproduce Curry or Durant by 10, 15 fantasy points on a good game? No. He can drop 65. He could drop 60 on a night where Curry goes for 45 or 40. Like, we've seen it happen. If I'm playing cash games, I'm going Curry over Kemba all day just because Curry's a more reliable source of fantasy points. But really at this point, especially with Cousins heavily in the mix, even at 24, 26 minutes per game, which I expect him to be able to get up to around 26, then Curry has a little bit less value. Durant has they all do. And that's what happens when you put a guy like Cousins into the lineup that can do everything. So yeah, I like that as well. And I'm not sleeping on D'Angelo Russell, and it's really simple. The matchup's not good. He let a lot of people down in a big way against the other day in Spencer Dinwiddie's first game missed. I mean, Russell had been on a tear, and then he just it was brutal. Some early foul trouble, just looked terrible. Played 24 minutes in that 10-point win over the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
Finished with 20 fantasy points. I still expect him to get back up to the big minutes today with the high usage. We've been seeing 25 field goal attempts per game. And I also expect, once our ownership projections come out on awesomemode.com, I would expect his ownership projections to be pretty low there. So, he's in play. I'll give you a couple cheap guys, though. We'll talk about Lou Williams at shooting guard just to balance it out a little bit because we got through the expensive guys here. You have Trae Young against the Clippers. I don't hate that. I don't know how much I'm going to get of Trae Young, but I definitely don't hate it. Patrick Beverley recently, and particularly on Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, had a monster game. 16, 10, and 8. 2 assists shy of a triple-double. Lou Will came 4 rebounds shy of his second consecutive triple-double. But look at Beverly's minutes recently. I get it. He's not the greatest fantasy producer on most nights, but hell, he's played 36, 37, 34, 35, 42 over his last 5 games. And he has a couple, 2 ugly games, but then 1 of 53, 1 of 35, and 1 of 47. And if you're getting those minutes against the Hawks at 4,500,
sure.
I still think it's very reasonable to consider somebody like Patrick Beverley.
He's been scoring. It weirds me out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, it definitely is strange, right? And
And it's not, and I should rephrase, he's been scoring more than we've seen in the past. He's had a couple of games that are 15, 16, 18-point games, and he's always been a D guy. He's always been defense first, and he's shown some upside here. And I agree,
right.
At that price point, makes a ton of sense.
But there's one very important thing to remember here. All of these games have come since Danilo Gallinari's been out, right? So we're seeing Doc Rivers run the 3 guard starting lineups. Beverly's minutes have ticked up, I should say, significantly since Gallinari went down. So he is close to returning. And if he does, then for me, Beverly actually is not only a less enticing play, but probably out of play. Because, 26 minutes or 36 minutes for a guy like Beverly, it's a massive difference. And that really hurts him. And, I think also a lot of people will still play him even if Gallo's back because they just think he's playing well and they're not putting 2 and 2 together. So I don't know if his ownership's going to be low enough to say, oh, you know what, I'll take a stab, hope he still gets 30 minutes here.
Right.
You don't really have that working for you. So that kind of hurts. Another one, if you're talking cheap guys, it's a shame because Monty Morris, he didn't really see any additional run last game. He saw 26 minutes the game before and 27 minutes in that one, and he was pretty underwhelming to say the least. I think he probably sees another 27 minutes. Murray is out. You talked about that at the top of the show. It's just tough to really love that against Memphis. I think you can do better would be the easiest way to put it here. And I guess you're wondering, where do you do better? Shabazz Napier was okay last game. He'll probably still play 28, 30 minutes here. He's fine. To me, he's not a top play, but he's okay. I think we're going to find some value at other positions, though. Right now, the one guy that really does stand out would be Patrick Beverly if Gallinari's out. And then I guess you would really at this point have to ask yourself whether or not you think Darren Collison's worth it with Tyreek Evans sideline. I don't know if it's that, with Victor Oladipo sideline. I don't know if it's really that big of a difference. I'll dig into it a little bit deeper in today's article. But right now, looking at Collison 5,900, he might be a necessary evil depending on what value opens up and what disappears with the injury updates.
It makes total sense and makes an easy transition over to shooting guard, where we've already spoken about Curry and Russell. You made quick mention of Lou Williams. You got Barton here with Murray on the sideline, Klay Thompson, Tim Hardaway Jr. So not necessarily a deep cast of characters, but maybe some guys in decent spots or potential upside depending on where the price point is. Do you feel like Russell is a better play at shooting guard than you may feel at point guard simply because of positional scarcity, or do you find someone who you maybe think has a bit more upside?
Sorry, who did you ask me about?
D'Angelo Russell as a potential bounce back off that Knicks game.
No, I mentioned a point guard that I think he's a great potential bounce back spot.
With the question of positional scarcity, the idea of shooting multi-position eligibility on DK, quick first look here, do you get the sense that a guy like Russell is a better fit at shooting guard and should be used there?
Oh, okay.
I know it's first look, so it's a difficult roster construction question.
It's tough right now. I haven't put any lineups together yet, which makes it difficult. I mean, I look at guys like Lou Williams, and he is he's looked really good recently. How much of that will change when Gallinari comes back is a good question. And he shot 2 for 16 last game, 27 minutes. And when I say looks good, I mean from a fantasy standpoint, because he still had 10 assists, 6 rebounds, and 12 points, kind of all over the place, which I like to see. He also knocked down all 7 free throw attempts, got to the line 20 times over his last 2 games. He's jacking up a ton of shots. I think he's in play regardless against Atlanta, but I do worry about blowouts when it comes to bench players, because bench players suffer the most. The sixth man always suffers the most, because he could go from his 26 minutes to like 19 minutes, just lose a huge chunk of that. And with Lou Williams, you're already not getting 30 minutes most nights. So in an instance like that, yeah, but if Gallo's out, I'm still definitely considering him, regardless of whatever the spread is. We don't have one right now. Lou's just been too aggressive and playing too well to ignore there. Another guy too, Will Barton got the start at point guard last game out with Jamal Murray out. 26 minutes though, and we'll have to see. We'll have to see if Malone's willing to say, yeah, look, he's off the restriction.
Right.
We're gonna let him run here, because if that's the case, sure. A pace down matchup, not a great one against Memphis. But Will Barton at the point is an interesting play. He has struggled in spots like this in the past, though. So I'm not huge on him. I guess I'd be fine with Russell here. But really, point guard and shooting guard, neither of them are ridiculously deep. I don't think either of the positions are offering a ton of great value right now. A few guys that you can throw darts at, but I'm having a tough time falling in love with anybody here because you've got your guys like I mentioned Napier already. Beverly's totally dependent on Gallinari, and then you have somebody like Justin Holiday who was playing huge minutes, right? Then played 21 minutes against Sacramento, and then 39 minutes the very next game. I expect him to play big minutes again here. His production has been lacking, no question. But hey, if Justin Holiday plays another 38 to 40 minutes, well, at that price point, you could certainly do worse.
What about, I guess this is a tough call to make here with what Oladipo brought to the team. What about some of these Pacers players with a matchup against Golden State? I know it's a tough matchup for them. You talk about blowouts. You talk about what might come to be with Oladipo out. The Evans, the Bogdanoviches of the world. Anybody at least on the radar here at their price points?
Man, Tyreek Evans had really struggled when Oladipo was out before. And, at first everyone wonders why. Why is this happening? Well, I think it actually is pretty easy to think about. Memphis, let's go back to his excuse me. Let's go back to his second season as a pro. Tyreek Evans got Rookie of the Year with the Kings in his first season, right? Playing point guard. Second season. Might have been third. I'm pretty sure it was his second season and his third, actually. They tried moving him. Kings fans might know better than I do if there's any left. But, hey, they're playing better this year. Maybe it was his third season. Regardless. Tried to make him a small forward. Dumbest decision you could have made. Why, you may ask? Because Tyreek Evans is a good scorer. He's a terrible shooter.
Right.
There's a huge difference, right? His three-point percentage over his first two seasons was 25 and 29%, then 20%. He's not a good three-point shooter. And once in a while, he'll knock him down. He's actually been a little bit better over his last few seasons. But Tyreek Evans is at his best when he's driving to the rack. That's what makes him good. As a ball handler, being aggressive, driving into the paint, going in amongst the trees and putting in the work. There was actually a stat when he was at the Pelicans that Tyreek Evans missed field goal attempts at the rim, ended up in a made field goal for the Pelicans 58% of the time one year, meaning that they were actually benefiting from his missed layup attempts at the rim. Crazy. That's what he needs to do. But his ball handling responsibilities are still way lower than you want them to be, even when Oladipo's out. So that's why, if you're wondering, that has a lot to do with it. You're not driving to the rim. You're not getting as many facilitating duties. You're not doing what you did that made you great before. And I think that hurts him quite a bit. So I'm not looking at Tyreek Evans. If he was sub 4K, 4,200, maybe around the same price as Bev, then we could have that conversation. I just don't really think it's worth it right now, and he's kind of proven it to us. If he's going to be playing in this specific role, he does not offer us much, and I think we can do better elsewhere. Now, Klay Thompson, 6,100, with Cousins in the mix, yeah, it's definitely going to make things a little bit more difficult, but his price tag has come down. He's still seeing 35, 36 minutes a night. He's still getting the shots up. I think Klay Thompson's a perfectly reasonable tournament play here. And the reason is, we know this, you know this, everyone knows this, that there are going to still be nights where Klay Thompson erupts. There's no question there are going to be nights. Do you know that night where he hit each of his first 10 threes and shot 10 for 11 from three? He had 4 dribbles the entire game. Think about that. He dribbled the ball 4 times the entire game.
That's an insane stat.
I heard it on NBA radio today.
It doesn't surprise me, that offense with the way it moves. Yeah.
It's still crazy. Yeah, and then one other guy here is Jeremy Lamb. Mind you, none of these guys we're talking about make you feel like they're not safe plays, but shooting guard's pretty empty in terms of guys that you just lock up. Lamb's played 30 minutes in 3 straight games. He's still a decent enough player. The peripherals are lacking a bit, but he at his price point, 5,600, that's not going to kill you. And he's got a matchup against the Knicks, and defensively, since the start of December. Only the Cleveland Cavaliers have been worse defensively than the Knicks, and the Knicks are playing at a faster pace over the last month as well. So really good matchup for Lamb. It's just, can he get it done in the scoring department to make it pay off?
Any take on Knicks potentially here? You have Emmanuel Mudiay on the shelf, so you do have some minutes opening up for the likes of Trey Burke and Alonzo Trier. I know Ntilikina also was out on Sunday because of groin soreness. Do you see minutes opening up for Trey Burke or Trier here that could lead to some upside?
So let's take a look at the first game that Mudiay was out. You saw a starting lineup of Hardaway, Ntilikina, Hardaway, Knox, Thomas, and Vonleh. God, what a star-studded cast. And then
it's fun being a Knicks fan. Let me tell you, it's a lot of fun.
I'm a Sixers fan, and it's okay now. Yep. It was bad. I'm with you, man. Fizdale ran a 10-man rotation. Yep. Trey Burke saw this is kind of important. I pulled him out of my lineup at the last minute too. I was pretty pissed, and I played someone over him. I don't remember who it was, and it was obviously the wrong decision. Trey Burke played 33 minutes on the bench. I knew it, man. I knew he was going to get minutes. I'm like, man, I'm going to play a super low on Trey Burke. And then like, I can't do it. Because I didn't expect him to start, but I got gun shy when Ntilikina was ruled in as the starter. And I should have just gone with it. But you know what? I'm dumb sometimes. But he played 33 minutes. And we know, dude, when you want to talk about like the actual ceiling to win tournaments, Trey Burke has done it. Last year, he did it for like 2 weeks straight towards the end of the season. I know you remember that.
Yep.
Like, can he get that run? I don't see why not. Fizdale clearly is not a fan of Ntilikina. Ntilikina played 2 minutes in the second quarter and started the third quarter for a minute and a half. That was it. And he was out. Now, mind you, he grabbed his fourth foul. So how much does that have to do with it? I don't know. Could be more than you would think. But I still expect Burke to get minutes. And in tournaments, you're taking the shot on that ceiling. You're just taking a shot on that ceiling and hoping it works. And the biggest thing I'll point out here is that Ntilikina and Burke closed that game out. Ntilikina came off with like a minute and a half remaining, but they played about 4 minutes together towards the end of the game there. And it was Trier, it was Burke, it was Ntilikina, Hardaway, and Vonleh. You want to talk about going,
Christ.
You want to talk about going small. I mean, that Ntilikina, Burke, Trier, Hardaway, and Vonleh. That's crazy, right?
At least Ntilikina's wingspan is like 6'11". That's
exactly. Yeah. Tie his shoes without
the Knicks.
But Hardaway played 39 minutes. He shot 2 of 14, 5,800. I don't think you're wrong to say that he makes sense there. Courtney Lee didn't play really at all. Mitchell Robinson got his regular backup minutes behind Vonleh. They're just splitting run at this point. Robinson played every minute. Vonleh didn't play. Unlike the game before that, where there were a couple minutes where he didn't. Vonleh got 32 minutes, all of them at center, and then you saw the biggest minutes off the bench for Trey Burke.
Yep.
I still think you probably get 27, 28, even if Ntilikina isn't in foul trouble. I could be completely wrong there, right? Ntilikina could play the same rotation that he did in the first quarter, which is 8 minutes. And then you're looking at 25 minutes for Burke. But I think with the way Burke played and how much disdain Fizdale has for Ntilikina, that there is legitimate tournament upside there. And wouldn't you just put it this way? Wouldn't you just rather roll the dice on Trey Burke over someone like Ntilikina?
Oh yeah, I mean
the price.
The upside, I would say, is just so much higher.
Wait, he's hurt.
Ntilikina's hurt.
I thought you were talking about Trier. Oh, dude, if Ntilikina's like out, he's ruled out. So I can't. Sorry, I missed that. If he's out, then it kind of sucks because Burke's just going to be wildly popular, but you're going to have to do it or not. And
right.
Or not. And Fizdale just totally shits on everybody like he did with Cantor last week. It's very possible, but it will be hard to get away from Burke.
Yeah, I feel like Burke and Hardaway's going to keep playing. Hardaway Jr., he's said, and he to Fizdale's credit or detriment, whichever way you want to look at it, came out and said he's owed a lot of money. He's part of the next couple of years here. He's going to be playing. So take that for what it's worth. But Hardaway Jr. is going to play. If Ntilikina is out, Mudiay is out, It's Trier and Burke, and Trier is more expensive than Burke, and I think Burke has a higher upside because he actually does pick up peripheral stats from time to time. Whereas Trier's his Twitter handle is IsoZo, like he's an isolation scorer. I think Burke has the definite upside. Let's take that into small forward where you have Tim Hardaway Jr. eligible at 5,800. You do have KD at the top. You made I think astute analysis about how Cousins is going to affect this team, not from a wins column, just from a production column. Tobias Harris is here at 8K. Has a matchup with Atlanta. Will Barton is small forward eligible at 6,900. And then you get into some murky waters pretty quickly at small forward. Do you find yourself, at least on a 5-game slate, thinking Tobias Harris at this price point is a pretty attractive cash game option?
Yeah, sorry, I have to say this. It's really important. I wish I had the popcorn machine. I wish I had the game flow for it, but we don't because the game just recently ended. So Ntilikina played 15 minutes, and I'll dig deeper into this for the article once we actually see what the rotations look like. Trey Burke still only played 23 and a half minutes.
Okay.
He took 16 shots.
There you go.
Now, keep in mind, though, like if Ntilikina doesn't play at all, that's still 15 more minutes. Burke could easily get to 30. But you know who played 30 minutes? I don't even think you can guess.
Oh, hold on. I don't even know this entire – I'm not looking. I actually closed my eyes. The entire Knicks roster – is it Courtney Lee?
Mario Hezonja.
Oh, wow.
And I think you know this, obviously. Mario Hezonja had not been playing.
Yep.
Like, Hezonja didn't play in each of those first 2 games that Cornette was out, and he had been getting run at the 4. You know, it's wild. He comes in and plays 30 minutes. So just pay close attention. If you are a premium subscriber, check out the deep dive. And the deeper dive is actually free, but the deep dive will give you a lot more insight into this once I can really dig into it, because this is huge for a 5-game slate.
Dotson played 26 minutes too.
Yes, Dotson played 26, and interestingly, we saw 6 players off the bench. We saw an 11-man rotation where the game prior to that, Fizdale ran with 10.
And was this close? The Knicks were up and they got blown out in the third quarter. 29.
Yeah, they 29-7, 29-12 in the third quarter.
All right, so that's a good point. A good point to keep an eye on whether or not we hear any news about whether or not Hezonja gets some more run here, or we get some more potentially out of Trey Burke. Let's roll to small forward.
Ntilikina has to be out to begin with for any of that to matter.
Right, and I have a feeling they'll sit him here. Why
you would
for an injury? To the question, any interest in Tobias Harris at 8K in cash games?
Not really, no.
What do you got here at small forward?
So Harris facing Atlanta, it's definitely not a bad spot at all. I'm just not huge on paying that price. I'm kind of like how I don't really ever like paying for Kawhi Leonard in that mid 9K. Tobias Harris has been a very good player this season. If anyone rosters him at 8K, especially if Gallinari's out, you're not doing anything wrong, right? It's a fine play. I just don't usually get there. We'll see though. We'll see what it looks like. I haven't built lineups. This is definitely preliminary right now. And small forward, it's not that great. I mean, it has the guys that we talked about, like Jeremy Lamb and Tim Hardaway and Barton. All of those guys carry a lot of risk into this slate, even if they're inexpensive. And then you have guys like Taurean Prince, whose price tag has recently come up above 5K. He played 36 minutes last game. He's facing the Clippers. Do I hate it? No. Can they use his defense, against somebody like Harris? Yeah, I think you can. Do you get excited about playing him? No, of course not. But he is there. You pointed out that Dotson played 26 minutes. Is he going to get similar run today? I don't know. Could he be valuable? Probably not. He's 3,600 though. Trying to point out some plays here because we can't talk about nobody.
Right.
Right. Seriously, it's like MKG's 39K, but you don't want to play Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. You just don't. This could be a decent bounce back spot, by the way, for JaMychal Green, who played 7 minutes last game due to pain in both knees, and I had him in a lot of lineups, so that was pretty sweet. Been having that luck lately. Yeah, I had Jaren Jackson in some too, and J3, or what did you call him? Triple J.
Triple J.
Was perfectly fine at 4,800, but he's up to 5,700. So, if J. Michael Green comes back and he's probable to play, could you get 28, 30 minutes from him at this price point against Denver? Yeah, and I don't have an issue with that. He's small forward eligible. And it's aside from that, though, it's kind of barren, which might push more people onto Kevin Durant. That could be the case at 9,400. I don't know if I'm going to want to get there, especially being that you only have to play one of them on DraftKings. You don't have to play two of them. And the last guy would be Jason Tatum. You throw him into the mix as him and Marcus Morris, similar to guys like Lamb and Prince and all of the other guys in that range, like Hardaway. They're just they don't have the highest ceiling, and their floor is also lacking.
All right, let's not belabor small forward. And obviously, you'll want to tune in to the NBA Strategy Show in the morning. You'll want to check out the deep dive, which you'll need to be an Awesemo.com member to do. So use the promo code EARLYBIRD. That's one word. You see it here on the screen on YouTube, over on iTunes. You can just head to Awesemo.com, type in the word EARLYBIRD for your promo code. You get 50% off your first month at Awesemo.com. You get to Dave and Adam on the deep dive at 5 p.m., then live before lock, leading you up till lock time, which is 7 p.m. There are two 7 p.m.s, one 7:30, one 8, and one 10:30 game. So hopefully we don't have too many questionable players heading into that Hawks-Clippers game to throw a wrench into lineup construction, unless maybe you like late swap, and then you can what did Adam call it? This is a thing now. Swaptimize.
The Swaptimizer on Fantasy Cruncher.
The Swaptimizer.
The late Swaptimizer, to be exact.
It's like sweatikit. It's one of those words where I had to really check and see that it was a real thing.
Exactly.
Though I'm still questionable on sweatikit. But let's go to, I believe the act is a real thing. Sweatikit as a word, I'm a little more skeptical.
I love it, man. I love the sound of it.
Power forward is up next, where Collins is against Clippers. Tobias Harris on the other side. Harrell's at 7,100. Cousins still sits below 7K at 6,500 for his 20, so let's say 26 minutes, probably somewhere in that range. Draymond Green, cheaper than him at 6,300. Al Horford becomes that question. Do we go to him against the Nets? We love centers against Nets. Is that Al Horford on this slate? What do you got here at power forward?
DeMarcus Cousins is eligible here too. We'll see what his minutes are. The price is starting to get up there. I don't know if you feel comfortable with Cousins. 6,500 here. You get 28% usage, 25% assist rate. Not a big surprise. 18.5% rebounding. He just he does everything. Cousins has 40 fantasy point upside here. Let's see what Steve Kerr says. If he lets him play 26, 27 minutes, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's like a career 1.5 per minute guy. So that's not bad, and that's just taking averages, right? That's 40 fantasy points just on average. And he can do so much. Blocks, steals, rebounds, assists, three-pointers. He's a good ball handler. He can obviously score as good as anybody. Let's pay attention to what Kerr says, because Cousins could become really interesting. And if I project him at 37 minutes, or 27 minutes, he is the best point per dollar right now, power forward on this slate. If I were to project him for that, I don't hate the Al Horford call, Dan. He's basically the same price as Cousins too. Playing well right now.
Yep.
He's obviously shed that minute restriction a couple of weeks ago. He's playing 30-plus minutes in close games. Wouldn't be surprised to see this game stay competitive. So you're getting a good price point on Al Horford where he's power forward eligible. I like that. Jaren Jackson Jr. in tournaments, but where he's that much more expensive than Green, J. Michael Green, you're probably just better off going to Green there. Like Klay Thompson, Draymond Green is also capable of having some solid effort outings, and he's 6,300. It's crazy. Like, would you rather have Draymond Green and get like 33 minutes from him, or 27 minutes from Cousins? Yeah, me too.
Well, the current constitution of this team, like if they're on separate teams, I feel like as Draymond as that fourth option can have the triple-double upside, I just don't see it anymore for him. Like, I don't know how much. I haven't looked at Popcorn Machine and seen how much time they've spent on the court together. I know that's the starting lineup is Draymond at the 4, Cousins at the 5, but I just think Cousins' upside and what he takes away from Draymond from a rebound and assist perspective is legitimate. And so I'd rather have Cousins for a couple more $100. What do you think of Noah Vonleh? What do you think of his rise here? He's played a ton of minutes. I know on Sunday he had a a subpar game. Don't know if that's matchup specific, but he is up to 6,200. Yep.
Yeah, I liked Vonleh a lot on Friday for one reason. I like guys that are getting the bulk of their minutes at the 5 when they were mainly getting them at the 4 throughout most of the season. It makes them different players. You even take somebody like Dragan Bender, who I'm not saying his production's been stellar. We know it hasn't, but it hasn't been bad either. It's been way better than what he's produced throughout his career on a permanent basis as your just typical spot up, like stretch 4 that doesn't really do anything impressive. So Vonleh at the 5 to me is highly appealing, and there's no reason not to like him again today. I'd expect him to get back over 30 minutes. I don't see any reason he wouldn't play that type of run in this game unless it blows out. But look, Charlotte's not that good of a basketball team. Yeah, he's playing a back-to-back, but only played 25 minutes last game. Not worried about the blowout here because anything can happen. I think that's a perfectly reasonable play. Dan Vonleh is the type of guy that, he does have very solid upside. He proved that on Friday against Brooklyn. And, the Charlotte Hornets, since they lost Zeller, have not been remotely as good at defending opposing bigs. So, yeah, at the 5, I like Vonleh, assuming he starts there and Fizdale doesn't do anything wild. By the way, DeMarcus Cousins has played 48 minutes in 4 games since returning from that Achilles injury. So, or did I say 48? 84. If I did say 48, I can't remember now. But he's played 84 minutes. Thompson's played 74 of those minutes with him, and Draymond's played 71 of those minutes. So those are the 2 guys playing the most minutes alongside Cousins. Curry and Durant have played 52 and 51 respectively.
Yep.
It obviously makes sense because all of them are capable of handling the rock. Cousins is a guy that, you don't want him out there for every minute with them. It is what Kerr's doing is smart. When you're going to play him more run with the starters, play it. If you're more each game, play him more with Thompson and Green, who aren't relying on, having the ball in their hands for extended periods of time. Draymond Green's usage in these 71 minutes is 9%. His rebound rate 15%, and his assist rate is 30%. So still good rebounding, still good facilitating. Fantasy points 1.08. Same with Thompson. But DeMarcus Cousins this year is 1.49 fantasy point per minute guy. You take a few less minutes from him over Draymond Green. I agree with what you said. It definitely makes sense.
What do we got? Well, let's see. I don't know that there are any other power forwards. No one scares me from the Charlotte front court. So Vonleh, I think, is firmly in play. There's no one really. On the other side, is someone like a Marvin Williams attractive at a lower price point, or do you see any cheap options here at power forward that you think are at least viable?
Yeah, I'm not really interested in Marvin Williams. That's tough to get to. Marvin once in a while will give you a decent game from from time to time, but he's not really that cheap, right? Like,
right. I thought he was 4,300. He's 5,300.
Right. I don't want to. Right. You don't want to pay 5,300 hoping for like 25, 28 on a good day. I'd rather get away from that for sure. And then you have on the same team, I mentioned Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. 26 minutes last game. He's had a couple decent ones recently, but man, if he's just a total shot in the dark. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson's minutes have been so erratic that you can't, confidently predict anything, which makes that difficult. I do think that John Collins, not a value play, but that John Collins is pretty interesting here. I don't have any issue with somebody like Collins, has been an instant double-double facing a also fast-paced Clippers team. This game should see quite a bit of scoring. I'd love it if Collins was getting the bulk of his run at the 5, but obviously he isn't, and we'll talk about Atlanta centers to close out the podcast. But Collins is still a strong player, just not a priority.
All right, let's do exactly that and close out at center. And obviously, Dave has you covered in the deep dive, as we've said here. You have Jokic. John Collins is eligible at 8,200 at center. Marc Gasol against Denver on the other side against Jokic. Miles Turner's at 6,800 against Golden State. Don't often play centers against Golden State. Al Horford is center eligible here. Vonleh is as well. So we're going to get a lot of the mixed bag here. Jarrett Allen against Boston at 5,500 stands out a little bit for me in a matchup that I like to exploit as well. Bigs against Boston. Jarrett Allen's been somewhat pedestrian over the last 5 or 7 games or so. We could always roster Enes Kanter and watch him DNP CD, which is a good time as well. What do you got here? What are the centers that maybe at the high end, middle ground, or cheap you at least think will be part of your research process on Monday?
Yeah, center's pretty solid here. We'll get to the value in just a second. We already talked about DeMarcus Cousins. We already talked about Jokic. I think Jokic is perfectly fine. Just as we would play Karl Anthony Towns on a night where there weren't a lot of top tier plays, I think Jokic, obviously falls into the same category there. Marcus Gasol, like I still don't believe that he's fully right, but he's still playing. He's still getting good minutes, and Marcus Gasol is just going to battle it out every single day against Memphis. I don't have an issue with it. It's been tough for me to get there. We talked about Al Horford as well. You play him at small forward or power forward or center, which definitely opens things up. It's funny, Jared Allen. I mean, just Kenny Atkinson is not willing to make this guy's life easy. He played 20 minutes. He's had 10 fantasy points. And I get it. Sometimes he goes out there just defensively. He's lost and makes mistakes, which is an easy reason for Atkinson to pull him. But he's 5,500. I do still think there's a lot of tournament value in a guy like Allen at that price point. No question. Even though Hollis Jefferson's back, that kind of sucks. So you don't know what the run's going to look like, especially given that Ed Davis in that last game was really, really solid. He comes out, plays 28 minutes, and has a 17.16 rebound, double-double, 45 fantasy points. In 2 games against Boston this year, Davis is averaging 17 minutes, and Allen is averaging 34.5 fantasy points on 28.5 minutes. Don't really know what that means. Might have to see what both games looked like. But, you have him if you need him, and he is discounted. He's pretty much equally as risky as someone like Jaren Jackson. But I think Vonleh, Dan, is a better play than both of them, assuming he continues to start at the 5. And the ones I wanted to talk about were Dwayne Dedmon.
Mm-hmm.
So facing a Clippers team that's just been ravaged by opposing centers in almost every single category. Dedmon's minutes are always in flux because of who plays behind him, and we'll talk about him after this. But I do like Dedmon. If Dedmon gets you 27, 28 minutes, I think you can have a huge game. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but if you're looking for a cheaper player in the same matchup, Alex Len always has the upside when he gets the minutes. He is somebody that's producing north of a fantasy point per minute. He should really beat up on this Clippers front court no matter who they play there for the bulk of his minutes on the court. Big risk, of course, huge risk. He could have a miserable game, but Alex Len's also very capable of putting up monster numbers as well when he happens to get on the court. And value here isn't that great. Like otherwise you're looking at, a Willie Hernan Gomez or something.
Nope.
Who's right. Exactly. Like he went from playing 17, 18 to 8 minutes. You have no idea what you're getting from him.
Right. Well, I feel like that's a lot of the centers. Like I think you're getting a lot of the crapshoot where I like the Ed Davis call, and I know you said you like Vonleh more, but I think Davis and Jared Allen, but I like Davis a little bit more, and I like the Len call. Like on a 5-game slate, you're going to have to take those risks for maybe some minute upside from guys that aren't projected to have such, right? Like you're going to have to hope for the best.
Right. And Davis is one of those guys,
for the best, I should say, not hope.
Exactly. Right. Davis is one of those guys that on short slates, I'm always going to throw him out there. I talked about him a lot. I talked about him a ton when Hollis Jefferson was out, because
absolutely,
even if he gives you like 24 minutes, he's very, very cheap. You don't need a ton. You talk about per minute production. He's well over a fantasy point per minute. Is there risk? Sure. Hollis Jefferson could take minutes away at the 5. And if he does, that hurts Ed Davis and Jared Allen. But there is not that much value here. Usually there is, even on short slates. You're just not going to find it at center with the news that we currently have. Right.
And remember, as we go through here, position by position, not thinking as much as even I posed to Dave about roster construction. So you're going to have to tune in tomorrow morning to the NBA strategy show. You're going to have to tune into the deeper dive, and live before lock to understand the nuance of roster construction. And always remember, players recommended are specifically on their plays, the way they all fold together. We have the lineup builder. We have Fantasy Cruncher as an add-on. Those are all pieces to piece together. You get access to these guys on the live shows through the articles. Also in Slack chat, they'll share some more, obviously, for the subscribers. So if you want to be a sub, use the promo code EARLYBIRD, get 50% off your first month, and then join us over at awesemo.com. Dave, any thoughts here before I pose the age-old question to you with only one player?
No, let's get to it.
Yeah, this is a tough one. 10K or above, who would you prefer, Nikola Jokic or Nikola? No, what I'm going to do is 9K or above. We're gonna make an edit here, and I think I know the answer. But Curry, Durant, Irving, or Jokic?
It is Jokic, but I really like Irving too.
Makes sense.
And Kemba and D'Angelo Russell, just because there's a possibility that they go relatively overlooked given the slate size. I think both of them are in good spots to bounce back in tournaments, and it's a tough matchup for Russell, but no one likes playing guards against Boston, especially when they're coming off a terrible game when they were very high owned. And they're kind of expensive, but Russell's proven that he can get it done for big games, just so, as can Walker. So, don't sleep on them either.
All right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching and listening over on YouTube, hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment. We'd love to read them here on the podcast or share them via Slack chat or on Twitter. If you're over on iTunes, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave a comment as well over there. Rate us as you see fit. Stitcher, tune in, all the other podcast apps. Make sure to subscribe and share on social media. With that said, you find Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D. That's LOUGHY_D. At Dan Stravert, at Osmo_com for the website. And tomorrow you get EMAC, you get Adam. Tuesday morning podcast. Rest of the week, schedule is in flux. We'll be in touch with you on that. With that said, we wish you the best of luck on Monday's 5-game slate. Back with you tomorrow morning right here on the DFS Early Bird.